With the new season about to start, new Islanders GM Matthew Darche addressed the media. We'll tell you what he had to say and why it's important. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 to the modern era. So glad you could join us today to talk a little Islanders hockey, and we have got a lot to discuss today with the season just a couple of days away. We've been waiting for this since April. Matthew Darche addresses the media before he embarks on his first season as the general manager of the New York Islanders. We'll talk about what he said and what it means. Plus, the initial roster is set. We'll talk about the final moves. And Ilya Sorokin still shining in goal, at least according to the experts. We'll have that, plus our Islanders birthday of the day, coming up on today's show. Matthew Darche speaking to the media. And first of all, let's just start with this, right? It's refreshing to hear the general manager speaking to the media more often, being in the broadcast booth at the start of the third period during one of the preseason games that was broadcast, now addressing the media, putting together the new show that the Islanders have on their official website and app, behind the scenes of the Islanders. The transparency compared to the previous regime is definitely appreciated. And look, Matthew Darche, even with this additional accessibility and additional information, he's not going to give the store away. He's not going to tell you things that are going to hurt the team or hurt his ability to do his job to the utmost. So, yeah, you got to kind of read between the lines. But at the same time, we are hearing a lot from Darche, and it's refreshing to hear what he had to say. One of the things he talked about was Matthew Schaefer and how Schaefer earned his way onto the roster. Here's what Darche had to say. Being an 18-year-old playing professional hockey in the NHL in a market like New York, his maturity really gave me confidence that it won't be an issue. That's what comforts me. He's ready for this. We'll start the season and see where it goes. He's proven that he deserves to be in the lineup on Thursday against Pittsburgh. And look, that's a good start, right? That he earned his way in, and I think that that's important. I think that the fact that they didn't hand Matthew Schaefer a spot on the roster, and I think that's very important when you consider this. Again, in my mind, this is a transition year for the New York Islanders. They may not win or make the playoffs this year, and that's okay as long as the emphasis is on building for the future and creating building the prospects, building up all of the picks, prospects, the things that make this team better in the long run. And I'm good with that. I really am good with that. And Darche went on. He had a great camp. You saw it all. His skating abilities, but just the way he conducted himself in practice, the way he works in practice, the way he played in those games, and he got better as camp went on. His first game on the road in Philly was basically against their whole lineup. And whenever he made a mistake in the first, it didn't rattle him. He just had a good game after that. He's not an undersized defenseman by any means. And, again, the maturity level seems to be a big factor in the mind of Matthew Darche. And the thing I don't want to see from the Islanders this year is to lean too much on Matthew Schaefer, whether it's on the ice or trying to sell tickets by marketing Schaefer. The pressure on Schaefer isn't necessary. It's there anyway, but don't add to it. And let the kid develop. He's going to make his mistakes. And everydayers will recall, and this is something that has been an issue for the Islanders organization for many years, but certainly under the previous regime, where veteran players would be in the lineup and make the same mistakes over and over and over again. They wouldn't get benched. They would not be, not even mid-game. They wouldn't sit out a game in the press box. They would just keep going out there. But younger players, if they made a mistake, they rode the pine for the rest of the period or even the rest of the game. And then sometimes we're even sent back down or back up to the press box. Matthew Schaefer is going to make his share of spectacular plays, and Matthew Schaefer is going to make his share of rookie mistakes. And as Darche alluded to, the fact that he learns from those mistakes, the fact that he goes out there and doesn't let the mistakes bother him, doesn't, repeat the same mistakes over and over and over again, that shows his maturity and his coachability, and those are important things. But know for sure that those mistakes will be there at times. He's still a rookie. Same thing for other young players in this lineup. But work with him. Don't shortcut him. Don't cut him out from under himself. We saw it with Oliver Wahlstrom at different times in his development. We saw it with several other young players who would get called up for a game, and then that was it, right? Then they'd play 5 minutes, get benched after they made a mistake, never saw the ice again. Let this kid learn by doing. Don't put undue pressure on him and let him shine. Darche also spoke about Isaiah George. Isaiah George sent down to Bridgeport. The Islanders carrying 7 defensemen and 14 forwards on their initial roster. But I think Darche explained everything extremely well as to what his thought process was. And it's the same thing that I've been saying. I'd rather have him play, Darche explained. I'd be surprised if I don't see him here during the year at some point. He's done a great job. And that, to me, again, he adds, Isaiah George had a really good camp. I want him playing minutes. It's not the right fit to sit in the NHL. And I agree. And everydayers, you've heard me say it repeatedly. Same thing with Cal Ritchie. You want these guys to learn by doing. And having a 21-year-old defenseman sit in the press box as the 7th or 8th defenseman does not help him grow. So, Isaiah George, bright future. Again, probably a third pair defenseman, maybe goes up to the second pair at some point in his career. Not a superstar, but a steady second or third pair guy. Every team needs someone like that. And I think that's a fair assessment. Then he provided updates on the injured players. And I found this interesting. Pierre Engvall, skating on his own, will be evaluated by the team doctors next week, but is on the season with an injured non-roster designation. That means Engvall most likely starts the season once he's healthy in Bridgeport. And look, obviously, once he first gets healthy, he was going to have to go down on a rehabilitation stint anyway. But it looks like Engvall probably going to have to pass through waivers. Now, he passed through a couple of times last year, but not in the plans initially after he comes off the injured list, as he has a non-roster designation. Semyon Varlamov, skating on his own on a daily basis. He will start the season on regular injured reserve. Cal Ritchie's injury, Darche described it as minor. He should be good to go in a few days. He will start the season also with an injured non-roster designation. But Darche did say he had a great camp. He competed. He can make plays on the power play, and he was responsible both ways. You will see. You will see before this season is over that Cal Ritchie will be on the Islanders. Darche added it's nothing major, but he's 20 years old. You're not going to cut the rehab by 5 days just to have him back quicker. And he's also, Darche, optimistic about the competition here. He said, I'm very comfortable with the group we have right now, and that competition will keep them sharp. We'll see. We'll see. Still, I think some moves that I'd like to see made sooner rather than later. But I think Matthew Darche goes in excited, optimistic, and eager to start this season. We've got a lot more to get to on today's show. We'll break down the initial roster for the New York Islanders. We'll talk about Ilya Sorokin's ranking in the latest goalie poll. And for our Islanders' birthday of the day, a Swedish defenseman who was a star for the Islanders in the late 90s through the early to mid-2000s. Let's see if you can guess who this is. All that and more next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and you'll get $300 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. That's right. Pick a bet, put down just $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I've built parlays to increase my odds. I've tried player props and even follow the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. So whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Again, place your first $5 bet, and if it wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel.com, check it out today. So the roster is set. The initial Islanders 23-man roster is set. And no major surprises, right? I mean, we know the line combinations as of now, but of course that is subject to change. But your forwards, Horvat, Drouin, Heineman, Barzal, Lee, Palmieri, Pajot, Shabanov, Holmstrom, Cizikas, Duclair, Siplikov. Those are your top four lines. McLean and Gatcom are your 13th and 14th forwards in no particular order. And then on the blue line, D'Angelo and Romanov, Polak and Pelech, Schaefer and Mayfield, Boqvist as the 7th D-man. And then you have Sorokin and Rittich as your goalies. Engvall, Varlamov, Ethan Bear on IR. Cal Ritchie also on IR, designated non-roster, heading to Bridgeport. And again, with the exception of Ritchie, and I think even had he stayed healthy, I don't think he starts the season on the NHL roster. I think that's a mistake. I would have tried to have moved some of the surplus forwards and gotten Cal Ritchie into the lineup. I am confident we will see that at some point before the season is over. And it just becomes a question of when. Injuries could certainly play a role. And look, this Islanders team, the way it is presently set up, when you look at this roster, I think they are offensively a little bit better than they were a year ago. Again, you need everybody to stay healthy for that to be true, and you're missing Brock Nelson. But if you look up and down the roster, there is scoring. There are no stars, okay? I'm not going to say they have elite offensive talent, but you've got guys who can put the puck in the net. No snipers, but right now, with Holmstrom is a 20-goal scorer last year on the third line. Shabanov probably won't hit 20 this year, but again, this is his adjustment year from the KHL to the NHL. You got a 20 to 25 goal guy in Lee. You got a 15 to 20 goal guy in Barzal. You got a 20 to 25 goal guy in Palmieri. Horvat, 25 to 30. Drouin, 15 to 20. Heineman, 10 to 15, depending on, if he stays on that top line for a while. Siplikov, 15, let's say. Duclair, if he's on the fourth line long-term, probably closer to 10 to 15. If he moves up into the top or middle six, he might go 15 to 18. But there is a little more balance and a little more depth on this team than there was a year ago, offensively. And I think a healthy Duclair, the addition of Drouin, a healthy Barzal, Siplikov may be more involved. You have more weapons on the power play than you did a year ago. The defense, however, is the concern. Alexander Romanov and Tony DeAngelo, we know what DeAngelo brings offensively, but we also know what he doesn't bring defensively, and that's consistent play. I think DeAngelo will at least match the point total that we saw last year from Noah Dobson, and he'll probably be just as bad defensively, but he'll do it for a fraction of the cost. Adam Pelech, Ryan Polak have got to stay healthy. That has been the big issue for them. Their lack of speed has been an issue at times, but the Islanders, if they're going to be competitive this year, will need more from them. Scott Mayfield going to mentor and protect Matthew Schaefer. They need him healthy, and I think Boqvist is kind of a wild card as far as filling in and giving this team a little depth, and he can also fill in it forward if and when you need him to do that. So it's there. There is talent. Now, backup goaltending remains a concern. Is David Rittich ready? He has been an every other year guy. And with an every other year guy, last year was not so good. The year before was good. So he's due for a good year, but the Islanders need him. They cannot overwork Ilya Sorokin. But the roster is now set, and we'll see how many moves Matthew Darche makes over the course of the season and what impact they will have. And obviously, how the team does in the standings will be important to determining how many trades are made this year and how early those trades are made. We shall see. More to get to on today's show. The Athletic just came out with its rankings of starting goalies. We'll discuss Ilya Sorokin's ranking and how he is still considered one of the better goalies in the National Hockey League. We'll have that. We'll have our Islanders birthday of the day coming up next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at Indeed. You just realized your business needs to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed Sponsored Jobs puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. I've been in that spot where you need to hire like yesterday. The pressure is on, and every day without the right person is a setback. That's exactly when Indeed Sponsored Jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. Now you could speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. So the Athletic came out with its annual ranking of starting goalies. And Ilya Sorokin, despite the last two mediocre seasons, kind of looking pretty good here. Now, the top tier world-class goalies only had 4 players in it. Number 4, Sergei Bobrovsky. Number 3, Andrei Vasilevsky. Number 2, Connor Hellebuck. Hellebuck and Vasilevsky actually tied for second. And then in the number 1 spot, and this is a bit of a surprise for me as well, Igor Shesterkin of the Rangers. Tier 2, high-level starter. A top 10 starter, franchise quality, a goalie capable of handling the vast majority of starts for a good team and succeeding in a workhorse role. Number 5, Jake Ottinger. And number 6, Ilya Sorokin. A goalie coach basically said he's very well composed because of his play reading ability. He's not overwhelmingly big or fast. There's nothing where you're like, oh, wow, he's incredible. But he reads the game well, and he's really well positioned. A former goalie who is now retired. He's the highest of the 2s, second tiers. He can be unbelievable for stretches. I think he sometimes wears down because he plays such an active style. He really has to exert himself. A coach. He's a stud. I hope his talents don't get wasted while they try to fix everything. Hopefully they get better quickly enough so the league can see how good he is. So here, even though the last 2 seasons have been a little disappointing for Ilya Sorokin, scouts, coaches, retired players recognizing what Ilya Sorokin brings to the table and recognizing that the poor play in front of him has been a bigger factor in his disappointing play the last 2 years than his own lack of ability or lack of talent. Ultimately, Sorokin is 30 now. We know the Islanders are in a retool. It is up to the Islanders to start surrounding Ilya Sorokin with better talent. And I would say since the Islanders are probably a couple of years away from really starting to be contenders if they continue to make the right moves, he'll be 32 at that point, or 33, let's say. He'll still have 3 or 4 solid years left but they can't overuse Ilya Sorokin and wear him down. And if this team this season gets off to a poor start, do not overuse Ilya Sorokin. Let Rittich or Hogberg, or if you bring in another goalie, or if Varley gets healthy again, let the backups play their share. You got 15 back-to-back games this year on the schedule. 15. It's an Olympic year. The season is compressed. Don't wear down your franchise goalie hoping to squeak into the playoffs or chase your tail after a frustrating start. Now, if things are going well, if the Islanders are in the thick of the fight for a playoff spot through December, January, yeah, maybe you want to play him a little bit more. But I think if you give Ilya Sorokin more than 55 starts, especially in front of this inconsistent defense that the team has, you're asking for trouble. And again, to me, the long term, more important than the short term, based on where this franchise is right now. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And this guy is one of the more popular Islanders from the 90s and into the early 2000s. Monday was the 51st birthday of former Islanders defenseman Kenny Jonsson, 6'3", 205, a first-round pick of the Maple Leafs in 1993, the 12th overall pick. Played 2 seasons in Toronto and then joined the Islanders late in the 95-96 season. Stayed on the island through the 2003-2004 campaign and then went back to Sweden to finish out his career. Played in 686 career NHL games, had 63 goals, 267 points, 298 penalty minutes, had a goal, 4 points in 19 playoff games. All the points came with the Islanders. He played in 15 playoff games with the Islanders and provided the team with leadership, with athleticism on the blue line, had 14 goals in 1997-98 and 40 points, both of those being career highs. One of his better games as an Islander, we go back 25 years almost to the day, October 31st, Halloween night, the year 2000, Islanders hosting the Bruins at the Nassau Coliseum. Andrew Raycroft, the goalie for Boston, John Van Beesbrook, the goalie for your New York Islanders. And after a scoreless first period, the Islanders go on the power play in the second period. And basically, Kenny Jonsson gets them on the board. Claude Lapointe and Kevin Haller with the assist, 1-0 Islanders. With the Islanders up 2-0 late in the second, Jonsson and Haller set up Dave Scatchard. That makes it 3-0 Islanders. The Islanders go on to win the game by a score of 4-2. An empty netter by Brad Isbister clinches it. John Van Beesbrook, 32 saves to get the win. Islanders only had 13 shots on goal in this game. Outshot 34-13, still managed to get the win. Kenny Jonsson, a goal, an assist. He had 2 points. His goal came on the power play. It came on his only shot, and he was on the ice for a hair under 22 minutes. Kenny Jonsson is our Islanders' birthday of the day. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until the Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. You could find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. If you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You can follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis, and it's always great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Everydayers, we are back tomorrow, and we will continue as we ramp up toward the start of the Islanders 2025-2026 season, which is Thursday. We'll have the latest Islanders news, notes, and happenings and get you ready for this season. I am so excited that Islanders hockey is back, and the NHL regular season starts tonight, so I'm looking forward to that as well. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, and of course, let's go Islanders.